upcoming show called 25, we are going to be focusing on 25 things that have made us who we are at Decidedly Jazz. And one of those things is our brief but intense association with Clarence Big Miller. He left a very large mark on our company, and we thought because of that we would like to focus on him for this year's Talkin' Jazz event.
Big Miller was born in 1922 in Sioux City, Iowa, and he passed away in 1992 in Edmonton at the age of 69. He's famous for many things. He was a blues shouter, and that was a term that was used to describe singers, especially in the late 40s and early 50s, who could sing over a big band in many cases. After living in New York and Kansas City and then Hawaii, he ended up stranded on tour in Vancouver when he was part of Jon Hendricks' Evolution of the Blues package. And whatever happened, I think Tom may know more about it than I do, but they went broke. They went broke. And Big was stranded there, and that's where he met Tom. And the Canadian part of his life unfolded at that point, and Big ended up, of course, recording these various records. He ended up moving to Edmonton with Tom's encouragement, and played a major role in so much of the blues and jazz activity in this province.
Like Vicki said, I had the pleasure of working with Big when I was 17 years old. And I'm not, well, maybe exaggerating a little bit, but not much, but it was probably my first gig as a professional musician, was with Big. And I had never met him or heard him before that. So I don't know how many of you ever saw him in person. Yeah, it's an experience. And I was this kid, 17 years old, first year music college. I had no idea what was going on, musically or in life or anything. And I got this call to go and play 10 nights at the Emerald Lake Lodge with Big Miller.
That was your first gig?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you read your horoscope?
Yeah, so exactly. It was like, what? Okay. How you actually did a gig? Like, what do you do? And so I went, and it was myself and two other young guys. Piano player Chris Andrew and a drummer Lyle Molzan, and we drove up there in a station wagon, Lyle's dad's station wagon, and we drove out and we met Big there at the line. I was like, what are we gonna do? Like, we had no idea. And so we get to the gig, and he kind of had some music and stuff, but he basically would just turn around and shout at us. And we would just stare back, because we couldn't understand him.
Nobody could.
Nobody could. But this is the funny part. The funny part is that he'd talk to us, and literally, you couldn't understand a word, and then he'd turn around and he'd be like, "Ladies and gentlemen." And it was perfect. It was eloquent, and we were like, yeah, it was pretty intense. Anyways.
Well, I first met Big. I had been doing the jazz show at CKUA. I did that with first by myself and then with Herb Johnson for many years. So we played it a lot. So we all knew about Big because Jon Hendricks had picked Big Miller to be the blues singer on this almost academic album, which, as you can tell from the title, The Evolution of the Blues Song. It did exactly that. The recording went on the road and went broke, and the cast, including Big, were all stranded in Vancouver, and he had been there for a couple of months. I didn't know that. And I walked into a club there one night, and because somebody had said, "You got to go hear this really good singer that's playing at," I can't remember what club it was. And he was playing with the Charlie Austin Trio in Vancouver. And and there he was. And it was a knockout. It was the first time I'd ever seen him in person. And shortly after that, we booked him into a couple of clubs in Edmonton, and a lot of other clubs did as well. He played 5 or 6 clubs in Edmonton almost continuously, and then happily for all of us, he ended up moving there.
On 2 occasions, he performed with Jay McShann, and the first time I think was I remember it was at the Citadel, and they performed together just as a duo with a bass player. And I went backstage afterwards and did an interview with both Jay and Big Miller together, and that was my introduction to Jay McShann. And really Kansas City music. I didn't realize how important that was, and how amazing that whole Kansas City style was, because that's where blues and jazz and swing kind of really melded together. And so then I became more and more interested in the whole Kansas City thing and realized, you know, how important Big was to that scene.
So the first time I actually met Big face to face was when I approached him to work with Decidedly Jazz. He didn't know me at all, had no idea what this Decidedly Jazz thing was all about, and I remember sitting there feeling as if he was really sizing me up and testing me, and that I had to prove myself. And he was very sort of guarded. I remember thinking, this is clearly a man who's been burned once or twice or 1,000 times over the course of his life. And so the initial meeting there was a lot of reticence there, but then he gradually warmed up, and then we met a couple of times after that, and then there was this turnaround, and it was like, anything you want, baby. You know, I said, I think I have this idea for anything you want, baby. I'm yours. Anything, no, it's just like whatever. And so it was complete trust at that point, and it was a complete turnaround. And as we met, I was asking, I didn't know what the theme of the show would be, and as I talked to him more and more about his life, it was such a fascinating life that I said, this has to be an evening about your life, Big. As I think many of you know, 9 days before opening was when we lost Big, and so he was meant to be narrating the evening and you know, singing obviously through the evening, and we just had to very, very quickly sort of turn it into a tribute. And the very generous people at NFB and at CFCN then and CBC and so on, they just let us delve into their archives and use their editing rooms and so on. I don't know if that sort of thing could happen today.
He had enormous versatility. I did a series on CBC with just Big and me, in which we literally, without kidding, we walked into the studio, they turned on, every week, they just turned on the the microphones, and we started talking or playing or whatever happened. It was totally unrehearsed. And it included the conversation and what key can we find that in. And he could do anything. He was a beautiful ballad singer.
Well, I just concur with everything that's been said about the fact that Big could really, I mean, he could pull things out that you wouldn't expect him to. And he would show up at different gigs with different situations, and of course he was also a trombone player, so he was incredibly versatile. And I think for me, the thing that if Big was here, I'd love to talk to him more about gospel music, because he taught me a lot about gospel just being around him and hearing him. But that was something that was really at the root, I think, of his style. And he was a great gospel singer. He knew so many different gospel tunes that he could draw upon as well.
He could make music on the spot, and he could make lyrics on the spot. And we have been dancing to lyrics that were recorded back in that recording session in 91 or 92, 91 it would have been, for years, and we're used to the lyrics, but what I keep forgetting every once in a while is that he made them up on the spot. So I don't think Sean McAnally sort of led him into exactly what was happening in that session, but I think that's the way Big works well. And so, you know, Sean would say, okay, we're going to do a Lowdown Blues. Okay, fine. And the band would start playing, and then, I mean, the dancers in the back right now experience this. That he did, I jumped out of my skin. He started singing, and then he just started making up these words, and, you know, it was brilliant.